Hey folks, it's Ardwulf. Welcome. We're going to do an unboxing today of the brand newly released Race for Bastogne. This is a game in the Grand Tactical series from Multi-Man Publishing. Series designer Adam Starkweather. Game designer in this case is Joe Chacon. So this is something that's been, on the pre-order list from Multi-Man for quite a while. It's the latest in the GTS Grand Tactical series, which is a series that I like a lot, and you may see some more video on at some point. And there's a pretty good chance that Race for Bastogne here will hit a table here sometime relatively soon. So the first thing we notice is that it is in the big 3-inch Multi-Man box. So some of these games, the early games, appeared in like these large flat boxes, they felt kind of deluxe, but it looks like Multi-Man's moving away from that, which is a bit understandable, and certainly from a shelf management perspective, these are a little easier to deal with. There's 8 counter sheets in here, so I'm not 100% sure. I think there's 8 counter sheets, so I'm not 100% sure what the breakdown is going to look like as far as fitting it all back in the box, but we do have the new Aegis counter trays available, and since these counters are 5/8 inch counters, this is a great target to use those counter trays on. So let's open her up and see what we're going to get. There have been a bunch of unboxings of this already, plus my pre-order was a very late pre-order, not like in the last month, but not much before that. So I'm probably like one of the last handful of people to get this, which is no big deal. Put some little balloons in the box, which is, there's a fair amount of headroom in this box, which is actually good. I feel like I can get 3, just at a glance, I may be able to get 3 counter sheets in this box, and if so, then I think I can get the whole game in the box. So, the traditional Multi-Man Publishing contents card. Race for Bastogne should contain 1 box and a lid, check. 1 Grand Tactical Series 2.0C series rules, 1 Race for Bastogne exclusive rules, 1 rules summary and flowchart book, 11 player aid cards, a bunch of which are displays, 4 maps, 8 counter sheets, and 4 10-sided dice. So we definitely got the 10-sided dice. I have, of course, because it's me and I'm OCD, I have my own dedicated set of GTS dice. So we have the exclusive rules, counter sheet. So this one of these little mini maps is a scenario mini map. Player aids, counter sheet, charts and tables. Once you get used to GTS, kind of the entire game runs off just this thing. Scenario 2 map. So this is this individual scenario maps. Let's put that there for now. More counter sheets. GTS 2.0C. What the difference is between 2.0 and 2.0C is, I don't know off the top of my head, but it's probably relatively minor. Counter sheet. Full-sized map. So the whole footprint of this thing is going to be 2 maps, plus one of those little 1-page maps is going to bump off the bottom, off the southern edge. All right, let's just pull it all out. These are, we'll look at them all individually. Traditional Multi-Man Publishing blank piece of paper. Lair aid cards. Counter sheet. Map. As you can see, I mean, these are not cheap games. I'm not going to try to tell you that they are inexpensive games. They are not. But you do get rather a lot of stuff in it too. So, and the play value is high. At least it tends to be with many volumes in the series. There are at least a couple exceptions to that, but I've talked about that in the past. So let's take a look at the rule books first. So there are 3 books with this, which I've mixed up completely. So the first is the Grand Tactical Series version 2.0 rules. This is a 40-page book. This looks like, I will tell you, this looks like it's written in the case system, and it's a very, very loose case system. So those who are used to a much tighter case system presentation of rules might find this to be a difficult rule book to deal with. However, we did find that once you actually start to play GTS, I believe that's new, that and you get used to it, and you've played for, say, a day of game time, which is, the turns are 2 hours. So once you've played about half a dozen turns, you really don't need to look much up in the rules anymore at that point. So this is full color. It's on a glossy stock, fairly thick feeling glossy stock. It's like definitely thicker than a magazine stock. The whole book is essentially rules. However, there may be some optional stuff in the back. Nope. There's a glossary in the back, which is actually a nice addition as well. Series credit: Adam Starkweather, developer Nick Richardson, graphic artist Nico Escubi, rules writer John Gautier, and original system design Eric Lee Smith. That would be the game Panzer Command from Victory Games from 1986 or 87 or something like that. And we also get this Grand Tactical Series 2.0 rules summary, and this is what you might end up looking at if you need a rules reference, because basically the entire game is in this, along with some flowcharts for some of the fussier processes, including indirect fire and assaults. Now, assaults is the big change between GTS 1, which is the games before The Greatest Day, Gold, Juno, and Sword. So the 3 games in question there are The Devil's Cauldron, Where Eagles Dare, and No Question of Surrender. Those are the GTS 1 rules. The big difference between GTS 1 and GTS 2, and it is a big difference, is Assault. It has been restructured. It got restructured so significantly that the factors are different and the components are no longer cross-compatible, which is awkward and unfortunate, but not, not a catastrophe either. There's a third flowchart for direct and opportunity fire, so that is cool. And then we have the exclusive rulebook. So this happens obviously in 1944 during the Battle of the Bulge, as the besieged town crossroads of Bastogne. Really, the crossroads is more important than the town. Is besieged by German forces for a number of days. So, and this, of course, was immortalized in Band of Brothers, among other things. So check that out. If you want a good treatment of this, check out Band of Brothers. So again, glossy paper. Feels like it's about 40 pages as well. It is 44 pages. Terrain legend, so what the terrain looks like on the map, is on the back. And you'll notice when we look at the maps, it is a sort of winter-compatible color palette, which I rather like for Battle of the Bulge stuff. So, exclusive rules. Usually, a lot of that in this system deals with things like the different types of terrain and stuff like that. There's some city stuff here. There's sequence of play adjustments, rear guards and roadblocks. Those are things that have appeared in other games in the series. And which, if a GTS 3.0 ever happens, maybe we'll see that rolled into the core rules, since I've seen it in multiple places. There's a big random events. This is kind of a major part of the game-specific rules in these games, is the random events, which are drawn by chit. It is a chit pull system. Very solitaire friendly, although the footprints tend to be relatively high. Many of the games in the series do have a lot of support for smaller scenarios. The Greatest Day, Operation Mercury, and The Devil's Cauldron have really good support for smaller scenarios that are not, necessarily going to take up 1,000,000 years or 1,000,000 square feet. So we're into the scenarios now. So yeah, 20 pages of game-specific rules, but I don't think it's particularly dense. So, Scenario 1 is Wilt's Waltz, Learning Scenario. Looks like it uses the Wilt's map, which is one of the small maps. Pull these out. That is this map, the Wilt's map. Okay. It starts on the 1300 turn of 19 December and ends when the last chit is drawn on the 700 turn of 20 December. So most of the day, the last chit doesn't get played. This tells you how to assemble the chit cup for the scenario. Here's Scenario 2, No No Noville. This is played on one map, it looks like. Scenario 3, Hold Your Position at All Costs. This is the Race for Bastogne East map. I actually feel like this one is actually uses both maps, to be honest. Scenario 3, however, only uses the East map, the East full-size map. And this gives you setups and stuff as well. So, they've definitely changed the format for setups since the early volumes of the series, which is probably good. This is a little more compact than it used to be. Scenario 4, Speed Bumps. This looks like it's also a 2-map scenario. Scenario 5, To Bastogne and Beyond, which is 19 to 22 December. This only uses the West map, but it's a pretty beefy-looking scenario. The turns should I mean, there's a lot of variables, but the turns should play relatively quickly. The individual chit draws should play relatively quickly once everybody gets the hang of what they're doing. And then scenario 6, Not So Merry Christmas, 25 December. This uses the West map. And scenario 7, Race for Bastogne. This looks like the campaign. So this uses both maps. The Wilts map can be appended to the bottom. It'll stick off the bottom just by about that much. If you are playing with one of the optional rules. So, and then here is a setup map, scenario 6 setup map. And this actually gives you the German deployment areas, it looks like, which is neat. And then this is what the whole thing looks like, and that's the sort of bump out map. A lot of these games have these little bump out maps that that extend the map area in one particular area that turned out to be relevant to the battle. You also get these images, these profiles of vehicles and air units, which is also neat. There's more on the inside front cover. Okay, so let's look at the player aids next. We have a terrain effects chart. And the charts, the one-sided charts and tables thing. And we should have 2 of each of those, and we do. So these are on a satin finish, medium weight cardstock, I would say. We do have this off-map display, and this looks like this is built to handle off-map movement, presumably by the Germans. On the other hand, it is all aligned to the north, south, or west, so maybe it is the Americans, who knows. But this is the off-map display. We have another display card that deals with date, time, and weather. You can see that the whole stretch of the entire game is from the December 15th through the 25th. And there are 5 day turns and then 1 night turn. And then there's a historical weather thing. I think you can generate this randomly too. But there's historical weather as well. And then the rest of these will be the displays for what we call the commands. And sometimes they'll put more than one on a specific card. So this is for American 8th Corps and the 28th Infantry Division. This is for the 101st Airborne Division. And that's the Allied stuff. So you got what looks like 3 commands, probably 2 player positions here, and you'll track a bunch of stuff on these displays, including command and dispatch points, which are the most important thing going in the sort of points economy that's in GTS. Once a turn, you get a randomized number of command points, which you then spend throughout the turn to do various things with your units. Dispatch points you also gain, and you spend dispatch points to buy additional activation chits, which can then go into the pool. Activation chits which are very powerful, but which are for specific formations, and what we mean there is a subdivision of the command. So if a command is the 101st Airborne, the formations are probably the parachute regiments within the 101st Airborne. That's not literally how it works every single time with every single command, because sometimes a command will be a corps rather than a division, but that's often how it works. And then for the Germans, we have Panzer Lair, 26th Volksgrenadier, and 2nd Panzer Division, and it's the same type of thing. So it looks like, I'm kind of spitballing this here, but I think I'm probably right, that the game looks like it cleanly supports up to 5 players. So let's clean this up a little bit and take a look at the maps. Okay, so I wanted to give you a sense of the art style and the graphics of the map, and this is 3/4 of the West map, the one that actually has Bastogne. And you can see, looking at the map, why Bastogne is important, because it is a big crossroads from which roads leading to all other parts of the Ardennes are located. So you can see why it was critical to hold it, and why for the Germans it was critical to take it, which they failed to do. Art by Nico Escubi. The terrain depiction here is fairly interesting. You'll notice that there's a dot in the center of each hex. That dot is used to measure line of sight, which, to be honest, is not something you need to do all that often. It is center of hex to center of hex. But the color and outline of that actually gives you a definitive answer as to what the terrain in the hex is. So this hex, for example, even though there's a little bit of woods in it, is a clear hex, just like this hex. Where this hex, I don't know what, I don't have the TEC with me, but that's probably a village or town hex or something like that. And then these will be town. I'd say these are probably towns, these are probably villages. I'm guessing at that. I didn't look at the TEC for that. But then you'll see, well, truthfully, most of the terrain here is going to be woods or small settlements. So you're not going to get a huge variety of terrain in the game. And looking at the TEC, there's really only 6 types of hex terrain and 3 types of hex side terrain. So that's really not very much. And then there's different kinds of connections and stuff on the back side of the card. There's quite a bit of this because there are raised railroads, sunken roads, and bridges, and rubble is a counter that can be placed, and then there's observation points which can like extend line of sight. So let's now take a look at the counters. As anticipated, there are 8 counter sheets in here, some of which are going to be marker sheets. So this is sheet 8. This is a thick, quite thick actually, thicker than I have seen up to now for GTS counters. They feel real nice actually. White core stock, more counters, and here we have cohesion hits and suppression markers, whereas here we have suppression markers and columns, and you do kind of need quite a few of these. More cohesion hits. These are improved positions, and then on the backs you have entrenchments, which are kind of an enhanced improved position. Here we have barrage markers. That's another thing that you need quite a few of. We have some construction markers. These are called men at work. And then we have these are actually, they're not really units, but they're attachment markers for attaching other stuff to these purple guys. So each command has a counter color. So looking at, let's do it in order here. That way it'll be most straightforward. So looking at here, well, this looks like the 101st Airborne. That is the 101st Airborne. So 101st Airborne is in this sort of U.S. Army standard green. This right here is going to be the other command, either 8th Corps or the 28th Infantry Division. This is 28th ID, and that is in a lighter green, but which nevertheless evokes Americans. And then looks like that is a combined command. And we can see that actually here on the artillery markers. It's both 8th Corps and 28th Infantry Division. So that's not 2 commands, that's actually 1 command, which can certainly make sense. I mean, if you look at the amount of stuff here for that command, it's not that big. So, and then we get into the Germans, and then so this will be 1 command. There's a light gray, a darker gray, back to the light gray again. There's a light blue, which is probably Luftwaffe, which they'll be attached somewhere. And there's this tan, and then there's this purple. The purple is a bit lurid. And it can be distracting, but then again, I'd rather have distracting counter colors, I guess, than counter colors that I can't tell apart. That would be a bigger problem. So, while I'm not in love with this color, it's fine. It's really fine. And, you know, this is whatever formation this is. So we've got what looks like 4 sheets of almost all units, and then 4 sheets of almost all markers, which is kind of typical for GTS. The improved positions and the march, ooh, we got them popping out here. So the die cutting seems good. And looking at the registration and stuff, I don't have any issues with that. It's been quite a while since I've had registration problems with anything from MMP. So whoever's doing their printing and die cutting looks like they're doing a pretty good job, anecdotally. Okay, so this has been a super quick look at the latest from MMP and the Grand Tactical Series Race for Bastogne. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. If so, please do give the video a thumbs up. Please do subscribe to the channel and click the little bell icon to get notified when new content comes out. If you'd like to help support Ardwulf's Lair, it would be greatly appreciated if you'd consider becoming a patron. The link to the Patreon is in the video description, as well as links to the merch store and the Ko-Fi. Until next time, thanks again for watching, and happy wargaming.